Nurture and support begins in 3, 2, 1.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Nurture and Support, the podcast where me and Kelly give you recommendations on things that we think are awesome, and we hope that you do too. I am Mel at Karmic9 on Twitter, and Kelly.
Hi, everybody. This is Kelly at Kelly Tool on Twitter, KELLYTHUL. I've taken to spelling the whole Twitter handle now because I think that's just more exciting to everybody involved. So
it also gives more opportunity for you to spell it wrong.
which is so going to happen. It's going to happen.
That'll be the day. Go down in history. So we have a few more recommendations for everybody today, but before we get started, once again, as we always do, we ask you to submit your own information to us. We would love to hear some of your recommendations. You can reach us at our website at nurtureandsupport.net or on Twitter at nurtandsup or at our Twitter handles. That's why we keep giving them to you. Or you can reach us at nurtandsup@gmail.com. So, with no further ado, we'll go ahead and get into recommendations. My first recommendation this episode is, not surprisingly to anyone, going to be a post-apocalyptic recommendation because I love the apocalypse. Unusually, this will not involve zombies, though. This is a movie.
One Direction album. It's not a One Direction album, is it?
You know, I'm going to save that one for later. That could be an apocalypse, too.
It is.
I actually have never heard one, and I'm proud of that fact. This is a movie that came out in 1992 called Delicatessen. Have you ever seen this movie? It's a French film.
Oh, French film. No. No, I don't watch French films.
Oh, come on. I don't know if it's available dubbed. I prefer the subtitles, but I know the Blu-ray, which I have, is subtitled. But there may be a dubbed version out there. But it's called Delicatessen. And like I said, it's a post-apocalyptic black comedy. And I absolutely adore this movie. It is so, I don't know, it's so surreal. It's just hilarious. It stars, let me see, and I'm sorry, I didn't take French in school, so all of my pronunciations here will be absolutely atrocious because I'm from Texas and I took Spanish.
Yeah, so I took several years of French, but I spoke it with a mumbly Midwest accent, which is probably, I don't know which would be worse.
I imagine yours would be far better than mine. It's the main star of it is Dominique Pinon, I think is how you say it, but I'm probably wrong. Probably most of you would recognize him if you saw him. He was also in Alien Resurrection, the Reese, the one in the wheelchair. And interestingly enough, the two movies were also directed by the same director, Jean-Pierre Jeunet. So I love this movie. It is, I'm unclear as to what started the apocalypse, whether it was just a worldwide famine or there was some sort of war, but they don't have any food. They still have electricity, and, they're on little black and white televisions. And it's set in a little apartment building on the outskirts of a big city. And the bottom floor of the apartment building is a delicatessen, i.e. butcher. And all of the people that live in the apartment building pay rent to the butcher, it says building, and they pay rent in grain, primarily corn. And food like that has become money. And they don't have any, whatever has happened, there aren't really any animals left to eat. The entire country's on strict rationing, and people are starving. But he has found a way to keep his renters happy, make a little money, and get some building maintenance done on his apartment building. He puts an ad in the paper, and he hires little handymen to come work, and then he kills them and butchers them, and the people in the apartment building pay him for pieces of the meat.
Are they aware of the meat source or not?
They are. They are. And the hero of our little tale comes for the job, and he's a small guy. If you know the actor I'm talking about, he's a rather middling height, and they're all poking at him like he's a piece of meat, saying he's too skinny, and they're not sure he can do the work, and all of this is nudge, nudge, wink, wink, because everybody in the apartment building knows they're going to be eating him soon. This isn't really a countrywide issue of cannibalism, but it turns out that Louis-San, our hero, was a circus clown, and this is going to be probably the only time you will ever hear me say anything good about a clown, because clowns are evil. But he was a good clown, even though he was scary in his clown makeup, I'll give you that. But he had an act with a little monkey named Dr. Livingston, and after one of his shows one night, people ate his monkey. So he's needing a new job, and he takes this job as the handyman in this apartment building. And hilarity ensues. This apartment building is full of lots of characters, including the butcher's daughter, Julie, who falls in love with our little clown handyman. And Daddy is not very happy with that. And so we've got a rich couple in the building, who the wife is always coming up with these elaborate ways to try to kill herself. You've got a crazy man who lives in one of the apartments who has it half flooded with frogs and snails everywhere. And you've, of course, got a woman who pays her rent in another way by being overly friendly with the butcher. So it's a building full of lots of characters. There's some bratty little kids, but the possibly the true heroes here are some people they call the troglodytes. They actually think that grain is for eating, not for buying things. And they live in the sewers in ratty, sort of hazmat-looking suits, though they don't have the proper hoods on the suits. They're basically in waders and things like that, living in the sewer with these weird headgear on, and they're quite strange. But they're called in. Julie calls them in to try to keep the butcher from killing her new love. So it's a hilarious little black comedy that I think everybody would enjoy if you can take reading the subtitles. It also, Julie is a cello player, so there's another instance of my love for the cello. And the clown plays a musical saw, which is quite a sight to behold.
Clowns, cellos,
and cannibals.
Cannibalism, hazmat suits. Mm-hmm. What more could you ask for?
I know. Precisely what I'm saying. It's a work of art. And I always remember the first time I saw it. I love that movie. I watch it all the time. So I recommend that everybody go and check it out. It's quite a neat little trip. So I think everybody will enjoy it.
I still think French movies on that medium should be called on Blue Cheese Ray versus just Blu-ray, but maybe that's just me.
I'll put that into Amazon because they listen to me.
Yeah, they'll jump. Well, being a Prime member at all, I'm sure that
yes.
They'll jump right on that for you.
Hey, there's rumors that they're going to go up on Prime membership, and that might price it out of my price range. We'll see.
I'm going to have to see if that's you have any sense whether Delicatessen's on Netflix?
It is not, actually. I meant to mention that. It is unfortunately nowhere for free that I can find. It is available for you to, I think, rent off of Amazon Instant Video, and I did not check iTunes, but I bet it's on iTunes as well. But unfortunately, I couldn't find anywhere to stream it, and I don't think that Netflix even had it available on the DVD Netflix. Yeah.
Okay. We'll check it out. Well, and we'll see how we run on today's show if we have a little time at the end. Speaking of free stuff, I have some unrecommendations of free stuff that I can throw out now or at a later date. But
all right.
But we're going to stay, of course, on the nurturing and supporting side and make the recommendations. And so I'm actually going to start off creating, I believe, another challenge for us, Mel, categorization on the blog.
All right.
Because I don't really know how we'll talk about this one, but my recommendation is going to be the Fitbit Flex, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
So this is in the world of wearable tech, wearable technology. So I'm recommending the Fitbit Flex. I'm not married to that particular brand or model within that brand, but we'll talk about it a little bit, and so let's get started on it. So for those of you not familiar with the Fitbit, it's basically think about a broadcasting pedometer is a pretty good way to start to describe it. You get a little wristband with it. You can pop it on. There's a Nike version of that does very much the same thing. And as a matter of fact, they've been running quite a few advertisements for that particular.
Yeah, I think it's called the Fuel Band, maybe the Nike one.
I think so. And I looked kind of at several different options, and I think it's really going to come down to personal choice and some things you want. So I'll talk to you a little bit about why I got what I got and what I think about it so far.
Yeah,
but
I have a Fitbit one, so.
Yeah, and so that's one of the things I want to kind of talk about, and because I determined in the process of getting this set up that you were in the Fitbit family because one of the things that they try and do in the process is connect you. So once you get the device signed up and you get your account, and we'll talk a little bit about all the different things it tracks, it does have a component. Go back to our Jane McGonigal conversation of gamification kind of stuff. It has some social and gaming components to it in terms of you can connect with other people so that you can either compete with them or offer encouragement of those types of things, and you can level up and get badges and all that. But basically a Fitbit, the device can go into a number of different containers, or there's a couple different devices. The Fitbit One is more of a, I think it's fair to say, kind of like a belt kind of attachment. It's that fair pendant type of thing. The Fitbit Flex, what I'm utilizing, is actually kind of a narrow black wristband, and there's a Fitbit Force, which is a slightly wider wristband. And the big difference between the Flex and the Force is the Force includes an altimeter as well, so that where a Fitbit basically counts your steps and keeps track of that, a Fitbit Force would count your steps, but also if you're doing stairs or those types of things, take that into account. So basically, you charge this thing up about once a week. You keep it on all the time, and it keeps track of how many steps you take. You can have it log your sleep at night, and so you can get an idea of how much, how soundly you're sleeping, where you're restless.
How little sleep you actually get.
Yeah, you actually document the start and stop times and all those good things. And so I originally thought that, maybe I'll hold off breaking this recommendation until it starts to have some of the desired effects that I want using such a device too, but I decided to roll it out today because I was just struck by a couple things about it. Not buying or selling on any kind of diet approaches or all the different things that are out there, but in general, to be healthy, if you take an approach to say control your portions to some degree, exercise, and don't jack up your metabolism, those are pretty good things to do. And a device like a Fitbit Flex kind of really helps you on that, because basically throughout the day you can kind of bring up the app on your phone and see where you're at. It's constantly keeping track of how many steps you're taking. It makes a recommendation to start you off at 10,000 steps a day, which is 5 miles of walking that you just each day, and so it tracks your progress throughout the day to reach that goal. And I know I need to walk more. That seems to make sense, but it becomes a little easier to do that when you're checking and you go, wow, I'm not anywhere where I need to be. Should I take that elevator, or should I go ahead and walk down the hall this way and do it? So just taking a couple extra steps, doing those types of things, it's a nice steady reminder. You can also utilize it with the app to record your food intake and all those types of things. So you can get the full understanding of, yes, I'll have 2 Big Macs, please. What that means when you choose to do that in terms of this is probably how many calories you want to have a day, and this is what you just sat down and ate. And so it helps you, at least gives you pause before you make certain decisions and got your attention. So that portion control, by kind of keeping track and logging it, it can kind of get you out of maybe some not good behaviors. The tracking is good for just a little bit of the exercise piece from there, and then the metabolism thing a little bit in terms of not jacking that up there. It does kind of a nice job in letting you kind of look across the day on your calorie intake and all that. And what you don't really want to do is eat like a snake and not eat it all during the day and then hit a big bunch of calories at the end of the day. And so it kind of helps you pay attention to that a little bit. And a reasonable amount of sleep is not unfriendly to your metabolism either, and so this becomes another a nice way to do it. So if you're inclined to say, hey, I wouldn't mind doing a few more things on the health front, it seems I have found it so far to be a very helpful device to kind of maybe poke me to some good behaviors and those types of things. And then probably what has become my favorite feature of all is the silent alarm. Which is I am what they call not a morning person. I'm unpleasant most of the time, but I'm remarkably unpleasant first thing in the morning, and it's just not a good time for me. And with the silent alarm on the Fitbit, you basically can pop in a time you want it to go, and what will happen is since you can wear this thing all the time, you can wear it in the shower and all that. You set in the time, and then at that time, it vibrates. And as I said, I'm not a morning person. There's usually a fairly large amount of volume required on an alarm clock to get me moving in the morning. Maybe that comes back to the amount of sleep I'm getting. But this little vibration thing on the wrist is actually pretty darn effective. And so it just becomes a nice way. So you get an alarm clock, you get something to kind of keep you doing a little bit of exercise and do some things with that. It ties into some other apps, which I may talk about sometime down the road. But some sort of device like that, if you're interested, is worthwhile. I like very much so far what I've had with the Fitbit. Again, that's not a diss on the Nike product or a number of other ones out there. And I believe Apple is actually their next operating system. They're making a really heavy push to kind of integrate this all in the phone so that you can have that pedometer and tracking and all that stuff just as part of the operating system of the phone, which I think is a pretty clever idea. But it does require you to then have your phone with you all the time, where something like a piece of wearable tech like this wristband is a little less intrusive if you're on a treadmill or something like that than carrying a phone. But so like I said, not so much pitching this particular technology, more in the concept. I do like it quite a bit. It's $100 for a Fitbit Flex. Fitbit Force runs about $30 more than that. And then the One, I looked at that some too, which seems to be the most accurate, by the way. It was, I don't know, I think 60 or 70. So
I would second that recommendation. I like mine, though. I haven't been wearing it to sleep at night because mine goes into a wristband, because the Fitbit one is just like a little pod, a little capsule type thing that you can put it in your pocket. It comes with a holder, but that holder is questionable as to how well it holds it. I know several people who have lost theirs out of that holder. So especially if you're a guy and you're wearing it on a belt, you might lose it. I wear mine in a pocket, but I have not been wearing it to sleep, mainly because it was making me mad to see how little I actually sleep at night, which might be part of why I am not a morning person and I'm grumpy all the time, because apparently I don't get good quality sleep, and it was nagging me. So, but the alarm does surprisingly well at helping get your butt out of bed. So I second that recommendation, and it does integrate with Spark People if you use that to track your food intake and things like that. I know I've used it on Spark People in the past, so I haven't really used Fitbit's web features, really. I just used the app. So I was unaware of all of these social aspects to it. I might have to log into the website.
I think because you've already got, I think you're probably in the setup process set up on an account of some sort in an email.
Yeah, I have an account because I actually have I have I think it's called the Aria, the scale too.
I saw that. Yeah, it looked interesting.
Yeah, and there's a couple different companies have different versions of that as well. So it's great technology, and there's more and more more and more devices coming out, like the Fitbit and the Nike Fuel Band and all of that. So there's a lot of them to look at to try and pick. But I've had a couple of Fitbits. This is actually my second one. I had the original one that was shaped like a clip, and I've always had good experiences with the Fitbit. So I might be moving up to the wristband one at some point.
If you're inclined to have colors and those types of things, they're starting to increase the different colors that are available. It's just the black and gray, fairly standard versions are pretty low key. They're they don't really kind of jump out, and it's just so it's not really obtrusive, and I know it's been a pretty fun thing. Right now it's just reminding me, hey, watch what you eat. Hey, maybe you should get a little more sleep. Hey, you're not exercising enough. But
yeah, especially when we sit in an office all day, and it's shocking. I mean, it is absolutely shocking if you have a sit at a desk type job, and at the end of the day you take a look at that thing, and you've been at work for 9 to 10 hours, and you've hardly moved all day. That's bad for you, and we all need to get in the habit of getting up and moving around a little bit. I know. I work in a small building, so there's not any way to really go walk down the hall to somebody else and be getting much movement in the day. So I'm parked at a desk most of the day, and it is shocking at the end of the day how little I've moved from my desk. So it's a good technology, people. Take Kelly's advice. Is that one a capsule type thing that fits in the wristband, or is it all built as one piece? No, because you can change the wristbands.
You can change the wristband, yeah. It's I think it's probably fairly similar to the same kind of capsule. Are there lights on the one? Any sort of optic feedback?
Mine has a display that actually gives you a little bit more information, I think. Mine's quite a bit bigger. I can't. I'm trying to look at something around on my desk to see what I could compare it to, but it's actually, I don't know, it's probably at least 2 inches tall, so it's sizable. I think the one they have to fit into the wristband ones is quite a bit smaller, so that's why it doesn't really have a display. It's got those lights.
Yeah, so you can kind of, and it gives you get that little bit of the visual feedback. You tap it twice during the day, and it kind of lets you know if your target's 10,000, how far along, quarter by quarter, are you halfway there, 3/4 of the way there? And then with the force, outside of the altimeter, it also actually throws up, because it's a little bit wider form factor. It gives you some numbers as well, so it's pretty cool. And allegedly, you're supposed to be able to, you tap it twice and you get your status. You tap it in a different place twice, and it's supposed to be a way that you can put it into, okay, start recording my sleep. I've had minimal success with that, so I just hit my phone and say start it right before I go to bed, and that seems to work out pretty fine. But the device itself is slightly wider in diameter than a pencil, and probably about 1.25 inches long.
Yeah.
So it's a fairly small thing. It just pops into this plastic wristband.
Yeah, and the app that it's talking to in your phone is via Bluetooth, so you do have to have your Bluetooth on for it to sync up like that, but it's minimal use of your battery all day to check on it.
Yeah, very battery friendly. The one thing that I'll point out, that at least for the Fitbit Flex and Force, is that it requires, I believe, Bluetooth 4. Which for us Android users out there, some of the older Android phones don't carry that. So it was like if you had I think a Droid Max or a Galaxy 3 or 4, you were in great shape for it. But if you happen to be, and as I was until recently, walking around with a more vintage Droid Bionic, it would not have done the Bluetooth connection. But it comes with a little Bluetooth connector too, so you can pop in the USB port and sync it up with on your laptop or a PC too. So there's lots of different ways to do it. I would definitely, if you're looking at the Fitbit and you want to interact with your phone and you're not a more recent iPhone, carrying a more recent iPhone, just double check on the website what phones it works with so that you're not disappointed.
Yeah, but it's a great little product. I will second that recommendation. So I guess on that note, it leads to my second recommendation, which is going to be short and sweet this week. If any of you check out the iTunes Game Store, you probably saw this. It was featured not long ago. and I thought that Kelly would appreciate this game, though it is only available on iOS. It is called Hipster Smackdown. And
I like it already.
basically you're smacking down a hipster. It is a free app. It starts with this very thin, scruffy bearded young man talking to a very scantily clad woman on a rooftop in the city, and he's telling her about all of the music that he liked before it was popular. He says things to her like he's vegan and things like that, which entice her to kick him in the crotch. And he goes flying up into the air, and as he comes down, you have to hit this button and time it right to get her to either kick him or punch him again, which sends him flying off the roof of the building across the city. So to play the game, you're holding down a button to make the hipster flap his wings like some free-range chicken and trying to get to the end of the street. And he eventually runs out of energy, and you have to dip him down to pick up power-ups and things like that to get him to the end of the street. And if you successfully manage to get him there, a vegan food truck pulls up to reward him. If you fail, a pigeon lands on his head as he's laying there on the pavement. So, great fun for all.
So what are the power-ups? Are they like flannel shirts and stuff like that? Or?
No, they're just these little coins. It's just a cute little free game that you'll get tired of it pretty quick, but there's a bunch of different levels to go through. The power-ups are just these coins in the air that you have to dip him up and down and around to collect, and then there are these manhole covers on the road that have this green light coming up out of them, and those boost him back up so that you get some altitude again, and he goes about collecting more coins. The point is to try and clear all of the coins and manage to get to the end of the road. The only thing I can find for you to spend money on in this game is you can get different outfits, and you can get like a rocket, but mainly you're just spending money, and it's real money. It's not like stuff you have to collect in the game. For 99 cents or $1.99, you can change the hipster's outfit to a chicken, or I think there was one that was kind of a purple Flash-inspired tracksuit type thing. There's several different outfits, and who knows, maybe they'll add more. And I think as you go through the 3 major levels, there are different outfits available. But there's no reason. There's nothing that you have to spend money on to, I think, get to the end of a level. You just have to do it. It might be difficult to collect all the power-ups, but I think it's perfectly doable without having to spend a dime on it. But it is only available on iOS. So, HipsterSmackdown. If you feel the need to smack a hipster, then download this game if you have an iPhone or an iPad, though I think it would be difficult to play on the iPhone. It's pretty good on the iPad, though, which all hipsters would have anyway. So
yeah, obviously, yes. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and check our app recommendations to find out what percentage of apps do we recommend involve causing harm to somebody, because there's the hipster one and the hipster smackdown, and I had Push the Zombie, which is still hours of fun for me. I still every once in a while take a little break. Say, yeah, I'm gonna go push some zombies for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. So. And Push the Zombies might be a little more challenging. I've gotten through several of the little individual levels in Hipster Smackdown, and it's not difficult. It's mostly for the graphics and to see the stupid things the hipster says to make that girl kick him. So
be cool.
Which eventually kind of gets annoying, and you can even skip that intro part. But it's a cute little game. If you don't like hipsters and want to smack one, take your aggression out on this poor guy and send him flying over the city.
Is the interface all pressure on the screen, or do you need to actually move the device too for controlling altitude and all that?
No, you don't even have to tap the button. There's just one button, and you hold your finger on it, and that makes him flap his arms like little wings. And then you take your finger off, and he dips down and put your finger back on, and if he's got enough power, he'll climb again.
Gotcha. Cool.
So, very simple controls.
Sounds like a good one. I'll be downloading. That way I
It's cute at least.
can kind of rotate between zombies and hipsters in terms of
Yeah.
who I'm causing damage to.
Yeah, it's free. It's worth a look. And it was featured on the App Store recently, which is how I found it, because I don't normally troll the App Store looking for hipsters, but, you know. I am a vegetarian, so I did find the vegan food truck and all of his vegan comments to be quite amusing.
Very cool. Excellent. All right, well, I'll wrap up the recommendation portion with, as advertised, you were not going to get just one Alice Cooper reference from recommendation from me. There were going to be two, as on a previous show, and if you haven't listened to it, shame on you. Go back and find the episode where we talked about it, but there's kind of two stages to Alice Cooper. There's the Alice Cooper group that went all the way up through an album called Muscle of Love. And then Alice broke out on a solo career with Welcome to My Nightmare Forward. So now I gave the Alice Cooper group recommendation a couple weeks back. This week it's the Alice Cooper, and oh my goodness, what a challenge it is, because there's so much Alice to enjoy. I did actually kind of really struggle, and so what I decided to do was, so basically about every album is awesome and amazing, and so just go buy an Alice Cooper album and it's awesome. But with maybe the exception of Lace and Whiskey. Maybe, I don't know, mixed emotions on that one. But this is called From the Inside. And Alice is an alcoholic, not just in the album, but in real life. He was fighting some pretty serious problems with alcohol, and around the late 70s, 78, 79, he got off alcohol, and he went into a treatment center. And From the Inside is the album he wrote to kind of based off some of the characters he met. It was actually, I don't know if it was a mental institution or they shared facilities, but he got to meet some interesting characters, and that's what this album's about. Then he kind of fell back off the wagon and got kind of in some trouble for a little while there, health-wise, and then, gosh, for now, 25, 30 years he's been clean again and sober on that. So good for him on that. But From the Inside is loosely based on that. Some very interesting things about it. And so I tried to pick the album to recommend. I said, I want to pick one that maybe could be the greatest chance for someone to say, wow, that I really like that, the most accessible Alice, because there's some Alice humor that people may or may not get or like as much. But this one is good. And sadly, while I will quote some lyrics during this recommendation, unlike the Bongo Fury recommendation, I will not be singing any numbers from the Inside.
Oh,
so
come on.
Everybody can breathe a big sigh of relief. And I think on the last time we talked about it, I mentioned that back in the day of vinyl, they fully leveraged the album packaging to create some very interesting things, working with Pacific Eye and Ear in particular, the design firm. And this, I believe, was the last album that Alice did that with. And so From the Inside, the cover of it is a very tight close-up of Alice's face in the full Alice Cooper makeup with the eyes. But when you took the shrink wrap off the vinyl, that photo opened up, and they were actually doors to the mental institution. So you opened up the cover, and as you opened up the cover, there was a big panoramic photo featuring about 12 characters, an actual photo of these 12 characters who are basically featured in each of the songs. There's a song about all these different characters through there. And so just to step really quickly through the songs on there. From the Inside is the first song, and it's pretty much Alice talking about, I was on the road and I had a drinking problem in a happy way. But so it's a bit of his story of why he's there. So From the Inside. Then I Wish I Was Born in Beverly Hills is the next one, and this one is basically likely Paris Hilton. I'm fairly certain. And there's a, but so Alice is talking about Paris Hilton-esque people, well before Paris graced our presence. So
Yes.
so there's that. The Quiet Room's a happy little tune about the padded room in an insane asylum. Nurse Rosetta is the apparently attractive to Alice nurse, who with some just amazing lyrics in it. It's a priest. In this one, it's about a priest who kind of falls from grace because he sees Nurse Rosetta and has
Impure thoughts.
Very impure thoughts. And this is one of the things, as I will agree with Bob Dylan, as I often do, Alice Cooper is a greatly underrated lyricist in terms of music, because like in Nurse Rosetta, it just starts off with, I'm a shepherd from the Pentecost, I got my scriptures and my wires crossed, I got no kids, I got no home, they want us holy men to live alone. And it's really kind of clever stuff. So you got that. Then you got Millie and Billy, which is a lovely tale of two young youths who fall in love. Unfortunately, Millie's married, so they have to kill her husband and slice him up and seal him in baggies. But it's a duet. What's that?
Because that's what you do.
Yes. Because then the line in the song is all sliced up and sealed tight, and I miss your late husband Donald, but such torture his memory brings, all sliced up and sealed tight in baggies. Guess love makes you do funny things. And it's a very touching song. It's a duet. It's really kind of fun. So, and they're serious about a gambling addiction. How You Gonna See Me Now, which is actually based off a letter he wrote to his wife about, okay, when I come out of this treatment, how's that going to go? For Veronica's Sake, I think actually a song you'll like quite a bit, because it's mostly about a crazy guy who's really worried because his dog is not in the insane asylum with him, and he's worried that his dog's going to get put down if he doesn't get out. Right. For Veronica. So Veronica's his dog. And it's a toe-tapping number. Jackknife and Johnny, a military post-traumatic stress syndrome kind of story. And then the big finale where they all sing We're All Crazy. So it's got a nice storyline and connected characters. It was actually the first concert I ever saw of Alice. The concert featured 15-foot tall dancing alcohol bottles. In the early parts where he's talking about having the problem, vodka would come out as a big bottle of vodka and do the Russian dance, and tequila would come out and do the Mexican hat dance, and a big Southern Comfort came out in a Southern Belle type of thing. So it was all good, and lots of featured. The band all wore scrubs, and it was just a good thing. The lyricist, so Alice does, contributed most of the lyrics, which he usually does, but he actually worked with Bernie Taupin, who is Elton John's lyricist. And so this was, so you see some of that effect in there as well. So good rock and roll. Who would have thought? Yeah. And Davy Johansen, I think that's his name. I have to go back and, David Johnstone, who's the kind of, again, probably for the youth out there, they're not going to know this, but back in the day, when Elton John would leverage occasionally guitarists, there was a really tall, really long, blonde-haired guy who was a really good guitarist. His name was Davy Johnstone, and Alice managed to kind of peel him off of Elton's touring group, and he toured with them, and he did a nice job. So good stuff. So it's pretty accessible stuff, good variety of music. It's got the storyline to it. So if I was going to point someone to Alice Cooper, non-Alice Cooper group, From the Inside's a really fun place to start.
Okay. I swear I'm going to listen to it.
Yeah.
I might need you to listen to it with me.
It's pretty. I think you'll. I don't think you'll need an assistant, but okay. I'm happy to because I really enjoy it. But yeah, you may want to just start with For Veronica's Sake. Kind of play into a little bit of the dog support for you, and kind of get you.
Well, that is always a worry. That's always a worry. I always worry about my dogs when I'm not home or out of town, which is why I don't ever hardly leave town anymore, because the dog collection has gotten a little unruly for most sane people. They go, "You have how many dogs?" No, 6, 7, and they don't want to come babysit.
Yeah, when part of the answer to how many you have starts with "I'm not sure" or "I don't know," that's probably a flag.
They haven't killed anybody yet.
There you go.
They're just short. They will trip you if they get excited, but that's the problem with corgis. They hit below the knees. They can knock you down. So I'll start with Veronica.
All righty. I believe that takes us to the part of the show that Mel and I spend hours of preparation on.
Twitter recommendations.
Dun dun.
So should I go first?
Sure.
Okay. My Twitter recommendation this week is @Marvin4000. He's a paranoid android. You probably won't like me. No one ever does. He's a sad and morose little robot who everybody should know from Hitchhiker's Guide. But he tweets things basically from Hitchhikers. So if you're a fan of that book or even the movies, follow Marvin @Marvin4000, and you'll get a cute little smile every day.
I believe he has a brain the size of a planet, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And it's I have followed your recommendation, and I had no idea Marvin 4000 was out there. So that has been an immediate addition for me.
Yep.
And it's the Alan Rickman era Marvin that's featured in the photo.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite Marvin between the movie Hitchhiker's Guide and then the TV series? Did you prefer one over the other?
I didn't see a TV series.
It's again, yeah. So this is back in the caveman days, way back. It was when it was run on PBS, and they ran a series, and it was pretty good. It was serialized.
I'll have to look it up. No, and I didn't. I wasn't a huge fan of the movie either, but I did like the books. So
I love the books. Possibly a future recommendation from one of us. The Marvin in the BBC television series actually appears in the movie. When he's going in to get some form signed to get Trillian released, he's actually one of the people in the queue. So that was kind of a cool thing. I loved Alan Rickman. I loved Alan Rickman as the voice for Marvin. It's a little bit of a departure.
I love him as the voice for anything.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to. Yeah, that's a pretty fair point. But yeah, the books were better. The movie wasn't. I mean, I enjoyed the movie. Sam Rockwell. He had done Galaxy Quest and then that one fairly much back to back, and those were two just really fun performances. So him as Zaphod Beeblebrox was, I liked it. I liked it quite a bit. So
since we're on the subject, I'll just go ahead and throw out that there are audiobooks of the series read by Martin Freeman on Audible. That he does obviously a really good job doing the performances on the audiobooks. So if any of you haven't read them or listened to them, you should check that out.
Very cool. Alrighty, so my recommendation is @TheNardvark, and this will be another Twitter ID that I have to spell TheNardvark. So like aardvark, but with an N in the front and not two A's. And the Nardvark. It's Brian Donaldson. Brian is from Peoria, Illinois. And based on what I heard through some conversations today, Brian is now going to be one of the writers on, make sure to get the name right. So the show that Conan O'Brien's on the show that Jimmy Fallon's on right now, it's called Late Night. Is that right? Mm-hmm. So that Seth Meyers is going to become. So Seth Meyers was doing some work to build their writing staff, and one of the places they went was Twitter. And they say, you know what, we're going to kind of watch Twitter a little bit, look for people who are regularly funny, on kind of current events that have built up like a huge base of followers, and because they've earned it, people find them funny. And Brian Donaldson is just this guy that works in IT out in Central Illinois,
Wow.
who is really funny, and so they found him that way. And indeed, he is really funny, so I'd recommend following him. The only thing I'm mildly disappointed is they missed the really funny guy in Central. Brian's good. There's a funnier guy in Central Illinois that they could have picked up, but I didn't get the call. So that's fine.
I didn't get one either, but then again, I'm more depressing than funny.
Yeah, that may not be the best Twitter profile to have out there.
I should actually add that to my Twitter profile.
More depressing than funny.
Yes, yeah.
So, but
that's cool.
Nardvart, funny guy. So
I followed him. Yeah, I'm scrolling through his feed. He's commenting on pretty much everything. Imagine Dragons, all sorts of things. He is funny. Here's one. I may not have any pets, but when I get home, the farts I held in all day scamper out like a litter of exuberant puppies happy to see me.
And that's the kind of humor you're going to get on the list. Yeah, so.
Oh, that's funny.
One I was really pleased to be. It's awesome to see. It's one of the cool things about Twitter is that it does give a forum for folks that are genuinely funny to kind of share some things out, and then people can kind of connect to them and enjoy it. And sounds like this is going to work out pretty nicely for him, so very cool.
Yeah, that is cool. That's a good, happy story. Nurturing and supporting across America.
Right. Totally brand consistent.
Yes.
So I think that probably wraps it up for this show. As Mel mentioned at the beginning, lots of ways to hear from you, and boy, we would like that. So if you want to comment on our blog at nurtureandsupport.net, send us a tweet at NurtandSup on Twitter or at Mel or my Twitter handles. That would be swell. Send us a Gmail at nurtandsup@gmail.com.
I think that was everything.
That would be about everything.
So reach out, people. Nurture and support us in turn. If you have any recommendations, please let us know. And we will be back next week with even more wonderful recommendations for all of you. So
thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, and have a great day.
Nurturing and supporting Jeunet.